Okay. Welcome everyone to Financial Blind Spots. It is a SCORE webinar, and we're very fortunate to have LaVonda Mikki Brown as your instructor. Now, Mikki is a business access advisor with more than 3 decades of banking experience. She is enthusiastic about her responsibility to build trusted relationships within diverse businesses to ensure equitable access to capital and resources. The strategy is to provide information, connection, and capital to small businesses, whereby the viability of the business creates thriving communities that produces jobs, home ownership, and generational wealth. LaVonda spends her day understanding the business and its needs to establish a team of professionals that will assist the client with their business. So with no further ado, Mikki, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle, and welcome everyone to Financial Blind Spots. So as we go through this today, I want you to think about your business as moving. Blind spots generally exist when you are moving, when there's movement in your business. And if you don't pay attention to those blind spot signals, you will cause an accident in your business. So I want you guys to be thinking about that today. What happens when I have an accident in my business? It delays progress. They are costly and they can institute total destruction for your business. So it's important today as we walk through this that you understand what the blind spots are in your business and how to navigate around them and what to be aware of. Michelle, you can move to the next slide. And then the next slide. So today I want you to pay attention to the blind spots. And just like in your car when you're moving, if you have a pretty up-to-date car, they have what they call a blind spot indicator. And what it does is it lights up to let you know that there is someone on your side, someone that you might not be able to see. So when you think about this training today, I want you to think about this webinar as a blind spot indicator. I'm going to give you some key components that indicate that this might be a blind spot in your business, and there's some things you need to do to make sure that it doesn't cause collision for your business. Michelle, you can go to the next slide. So when I took the word blind spot, I actually broke it down into what it meant. So B is busted budget. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on these as we go through it, but busted budget is a blind spot for your business. L for lethargic leaders. I for inadequate branding. N for now or later. D is for dismissed disciplines. S is for strategy deprivation. P is for poor communication. O is for outreach. T is for training and technology, and S is for strong affiliation. These can all become big blind spots in your business, and each one of them play a pivotal role in your ability to even to scale your business to the next level. So let's start with budget. So go to the next slide, please. So I want you to think about this. Just think about last year. Did you do a formal budget last year? You don't have to answer it out loud, but you answer it for yourself, yes or no. Did you exceed or meet your budget? I think it might be fair to some of us on this phone to say that we exceeded our budget, meaning we spent more than we have budgeted. So the third question is, what did you do to meet the budget, or what caused you to exceed your budget? So if you met your budget, you were right on, great, right? And then you need to identify what did you do to make sure you stayed within your budget. But if you exceeded your budget, you got to be able to identify what happened or what caused me to exceed my budget. Or are those things in my control, or are they not? And if they're not, what do I need to put in place to make sure I can mitigate how they affect my overall budget? So everyone on the phone, hopefully if you're in business or even if you're starting a business, you definitely have a budget. Because, go to the next slide, Michelle, a busted budget is like a busted rearview mirror. It will display a picture, but the picture is distorted. So you can have a budget and it may sound good, but a busted budget is just like a busted rearview mirror. You're going to see a picture in there, but it's very distorted. It's not going to take you to where you want to go, and it's not going to get you to where you want to be. So you got to pay attention to that. So you might ask me, what causes a busted budget? Well, a budget that's not led will not achieve its goal. Go to the next slide, Michelle. Lead stands for lack of agility. E stands for execution inefficiency, and D stands for desirable planning. So if you don't have these three things, if your budget is not being led and you're not executing to these three things, you're going to have a busted budget. There are five categories you need to think about when you do your budget. First one is fixed payments. Second one is operating expense. Third is reserves. Fourth is debt. And fifth is retirement. Those are the five categories you must be thinking about. But when you think about those five categories, you need to look at the trends. What is the trends telling you one year after another, right? So when I review my budget, I'm looking at the industry itself. So for every business, regardless what business you're in, there are industry standards, and there's a way to make sure you keep an effective budget. So you have to lead. It has to be led by you. So making sure you're able to be agile, that you execute to your inefficiency, understand what they are, and then do some real planning, right? Make it make sense, which gets us to the effective budgeting. How do I embrace that? Go to the next slide, Michelle. First thing you need to do is review your industry standards. Understand your revenue stream. I know we only have an hour, but I cannot tell you guys how key this is, especially in the climate we're in right now. You have to understand your revenue streams. What's generating the majority of your revenue? So, and when you say, well, Mikki, what do you mean by that? Let's say I'm a plumbing service, right? And as a plumbing service, I have installs for new build. I also have a maintenance contract. I also have maintenance where there's emergency where I come in and I do work for you. So when I begin to look at that, I have to separate each one of those so I can understand what is really feeding my revenue. Because whatever is really feeding my revenue, that is what I want to expand on. So you got to understand your revenue streams and how they're impacting your overall gross revenues. The second piece is application. Do you know your average cost for fixed expenses? So if I know that most of my money is coming in from maintenance, my maintenance contracts, and I understand the work that I do in those maintenance contracts, what do I have to have in order to be able to facilitate that maintenance? Those become fixed costs because this is the cost I have every time I go out. So I need to know what those are. You got to be able to evaluate your variable expenses. So if I'm doing a build job, my variable expenses are going to change because it's going to depend on the size of the project, right? So I need to know what that is. And then disciplines. What does my SOP says? The standard of procedures. Do I have those things in place? Now you might find that SOP is interesting to be part of the budget. But if you don't have a standard operation of procedures, what happens is people begin to do the work the way they feel fit to do it. That does not create efficiency in the business, which will actually cost you more money in the long run. The last thing is you have to review often. Here again, we're looking at what we're doing, and I'm reviewing monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. What is it costing me? Right? What does the customer trends look like? What are my cogs? Right? Do I need to hedge? Do I need to hedge the things that I need to do the work that I do? Those are things you got to be evaluating. Also, when I think about this, I think about agility as adapting and adjusting. Go to the next slide, Michelle. Agility is nothing but adapting and adjusting. Vendor variety. Please make sure that whoever you buy from, you don't just have one vendor. Have two or three vendors in your pocket. And you might say, Mikki, why? Glad you asked. I give you a true story real quick. I had a customer who had a milk service. He actually delivered milk. It sounds crazy, but he was in the New England states and they still like people to deliver their milk to the door. He had been doing it for 18 years. Very successful business. He made just a little over $1 million, but his net profit every year was over 800,000. Because imagine you pump the milk out of the cow, put it in a bottle, and that's pretty much all your costs, and plus his gas to deliver it. So it was a pretty lucrative business, making pretty good money for itself. And he will work with the same bottling company for the full 18 years he'd been there. He only had the one. Well, one day he goes to pick up his bottles, and they tell him they're going out of business. And he says, when? And they said, this week is our last day. We're closing our doors on Friday. Imagine what happens to him. He's scrambling to figure out where he's going to buy his bottles. He found a company that was selling the bottles, but his price tripled. It tripled. So when the price tripled, that eats into his profit margins. So he had to take the bottles because he had to deliver his milk. Quickly, his net profits went from 850,000 down to less than a $500,000 because it was not easy for him to pivot. Right, and he had to pay in order to be able to continue his services. And it took him a while to find someone else to be able to do the bottles for him. So when I say vendor variety, do not leave your destiny in the hand of one company. If there are supplies and things that you have to have for your business, make sure you negotiate that and have that with more than one company. Hedging. I'll stick with him as an example. Hedging, he could have done a really good job at this. Hedging is I use bottles and I know I have to have bottles. That is a fixed cost for my business. What he could have done is found him 2 or 3 vendors and guarantee he was going to buy so many bottles for them every year, which allows him to guarantee his price, which means when the economy changes and things go up, he doesn't experience that immediately. Southwest is a good example of this. They did hedging with their fuel. What they did was they went to the fuel company and said, you know what, we'll pay this much per gallon of crude oil for the next 5 years. They agreed to do it with Southwest. And so when 9/11 happened and prices went up, Southwest did not have to endure the prices of the fuel. So they were able to keep their prices steady. They did not have to charge for their luggage. So it attracted a whole new group of people and allowed them to capitalize on the market because they had hedged. Right. So you as a small business customer can do the same thing. I know some of you might be thinking, I'm not big enough to do it. Yes, you are. You just have to be willing to ask. I worked as a CFO for a nonprofit organization and we went to Hilton. Hilton is a pretty big conglomerate. And I said to them, I guarantee that we will rent 100 rooms for you a year. And I'm willing to do that for $89 a night, no matter what, no blockouts. They agreed. Now, 100 rooms is nothing. That is nothing for a year. If you were to do one conference, you got that. But they agreed to do it to us for $89. So when peak season came and the rooms were going for like $189, we were still only paying $89. It's all about asking. So make sure you're willing to ask. That's been agile and controlling your bottom line. The next piece we want to talk about is after you go from agility, we want to talk about leadership, right? So this is the L in blind spot leadership. One of my favorite writers, Mr. Philippian, says, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. And I like this quote because as a real leader, you're never thinking about yourself, but you're thinking about the people that work for you. You are a servant unto them, really, when you're a true leader. And you said, well, Mikki, what does this have to do with blind spot? Often we forget that leadership impacts the success of your company. So you as a business owner, even if it's just you and one other person, you still have to see yourself as a leader. So go to leadership. I always say great leaders make it click. No click, no connection. So when I, Michelle, can you click to the next one? All right. So leadership, great leadership makes a click, click, no connection. If you're not connected to your people and you're in business, you might be successful now, but you pretty soon you're going to become stagnant. You got to click with your people. So what does click stand for? C stands for create synergy. You create synergy around the people who work for your organization. L, listen effectively. I, influential and innovative. C, communicate clear and concise. And K, you be very keen. So I'm gonna break these down for you, and we're gonna go pretty fast. I know we have a lot of time in this, but this is so important because I think we dismiss leadership and the impact it has on a company's ability to be successful, even if you're a small business. So when I talk about create synergy, I mean you provide ingenious expected outcomes, right? You let them know what are the expected outcomes, right? Two, you're transparent in your collaboration. Don't be afraid to cross pollinate, right? Um, you utilize talents. You know, a real leader, when he creates synergy, you're gonna look for those talents that are complementary to what you do. That's creating synergy in your company. Also, listen effectively. You know, I often hear you have 2 ears and one mouth. And you have to ask yourself why. Because it's more important to listen than it is to speak. So listen from your heart versus your mind. Because sometimes our mind disconnects us from connecting with people. So listen from the heart. People who lead from the heart often are most effectively. Positive, be positive in your perspective. Even if we hear things that are not good, be positive. Take it and flip it to make it positive. If someone's sharing something negative with you, that's not always easy. But hear what they're saying so it can be a positive impact to the company. Innovation. When I think about innovative, new approaches, we as leaders have an ideology about what we want to do and how we want to do it. But the problem is with that is that you're one person. Allow your people that work for you to ideate, to help you come up with new approaches, out of the box thinking. We hear that all the time. And I tell people this all the time. If you stay inside the box, you're defining how big you can grow. When you go outside the box, it's unlimited. And you have to push past the norm. Instead of being the norm, you define your norm, which is vastly different. And don't lead from behind and don't lead from the front, but lead from the center. If I'm in the middle, I get to see what's going on up front and I get to see what's going on behind me. The last one is a communication. The next one is communication. Keep it open, clear and concise, and consistent messaging. A leader who has a very confusing message does not convey where we're really trying to go. So people don't know where you're trying to go. You got to make sure your messaging is consistent. So that means whether you're top management, whether you're middle management, whether you're the operation manager, the message should be the same and it should be concise. Leadership is key in the blind spot. We miss this because we're leading, right? Leading is important, but it's a blind spot for a lot of organizations because we forget this. You have to make it click. The last part is being king. King, the big picture view of the situation, making it logical, making sound decisions. Because remember, when I think about making it click, my king thought process, God has to make sure that decisions we're making, they're feasible for everyone across the board. Across the board. And then proactive and yet responsive. Be proactive in your thought. When you see something wrong, pivot and change it. This is leadership. This is blind spot. This is the L in the blind spot. And look, it's second behind budget. Budget is number one. Leadership is number two. These things create spots in the businesses, and it could cause total destruction. We see businesses all the time that start off really good, and you wonder why they fall. Leadership is a big part of that. So make sure in your leadership, whomever it is, it could be a 3 people organization. There's still a leader, and you still got to make it click. You got to create the synergy, listen effectively, be influential and innovative, communicate, and make sure it's clear and concise, and then be keen in your thought process. I'm gonna stop there for a second, Michelle. Do we have any questions before we move on?
Nope, nothing yet.
All right, go to our next slide. Oh, keep going. We talked about all those. You can go all the way down. Keep going. We talked to listen effectively. We talked about that. Heart versus mind. Be inquisitive, innovative. Keep going. Communication. King. Now here, stop right here. And this is just for you guys to think. Let's review your top 2 leaders. I don't want you guys to say it out loud, but I want you guys to think about this. And if you have pen and paper, just take a second and do this. Think about the top 2 leaders in your company, and one of them could be you. Are your leaders making it click? Are they making it click? Do they create good synergy? Are they effective listeners, or are they listening effectively? Are they innovative? Do they communicate well? And are they keen? Then use click as your compass. Name 2 areas that need improvement in your organization. I want you to think about that. And if you have pen and paper, write it down. What are 2 areas when you think about click that you can do a better job at? Is it listening? Is it being innovative? Is it being keen in where we're going? And then, as part of a smart plan, think about how to fix that. The great thing about SCORE and these webinars that we're giving you, these are things a lot of times when we're working in our business, we don't think about it. So, one of the things I always tell people when I am coaching them or being a business advisor, I tell them 20% of your time in your business has to be to work on your business and not in it. And when you work on your business, these things become king. Right? Click, understanding what's going on in the business from a leader perspective and what 2 areas can I really spend time on making better. All right, Michelle, go to the next slide, which becomes the I in our blind spot, inadequate branding. Well, we don't think about inadequate branding as really being that big of a deal, but it's truly a big deal, especially now that everything is on the digital platform. Remember, when people are looking for your business, you can have a unique name, but if it doesn't line up to what you do, you might be missing out on opportunities. So my question to you is, go to the next slide. What does your branding say about your business? Does it tell a story about your business and who you are and what you do? Remember this, products are created in the market, but brands are created in the mind. And once a brand is created, product sales are not sales, right? So products are created in the mind, but I mean products are created in the market, but brands are created in the mind. Your product sells, but it's not a sale, right? So it's really the brand. What do you bring to the table? What differentiates you from your competition? Because as most of us know on the phone today, there are a lot of companies that sell and do the same thing you do, but we always say we have a niche, right? Is your branding identifying your niche? Is your branding separating you from your competition? Let's go to inadequate branding. Go to the next. Inaccurate branding. If you're not capturing the market share you desire, evaluate your branding and consider rebranding. Now you say, well, Mikki, this sounds good, but it's not that easy. You can't afford to continue not to capture the market share if you expect to stay a viable business and continue to grow. So really, really, really look at your branding and identify, is your branding adequate or is it inadequate? So here's some perspective for you. Number one, does your branding capture your targeted audience? Two, is your brand execution fueled by your core values? Is your brand's execution fueled by your core values? So, do you have core values? And if you have them, is your brand executing to them? And number three, what's your brand personality? Your brand promise is nothing but your value proposition. So, whatever your value proposition is, your core values for your company, that should be a reflection of your brand. So, that's your brand's personality. If you're not gaining the market share, think about, what does your branding say about your business? If I said to you, two off beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, what comes to mind? You can just throw it in the chat. If I say, have it your way, what comes to mind? Throw it in the chat. If I say, just do it, what comes to mind? Throw it in the chat. Those are all iconic brands. You never have to say the brand name. I could just say that and you know exactly who I'm talking about. Does your business speak to that? Does your business speak to your brand? And you say, well, those are big brands. Remember, they start off small, but they found a way to capture audience based on how they brand themselves. Marketing is key. And remember, marketing, how we did it 5, 10 years ago, is totally different than how we do it today. So you always got to be thinking about your brand. Is my brand recognized? Is it recognized even in the community I'm in? How I've established a brand in the community that I serve. If I haven't, I got to figure out how to rebrand myself. These people are always rebranding themselves. So go to the next one. One of my favorite quotes is, "For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a person may be weighted down by misery." Comes from Ecclesiastics. If you shall go to the next two slides. Next one. Oh no, I'm sorry, you had the right one. Go back. Right there. Do you ask yourself this question before you make a purchase? So this it goes to, in blind spots, the end, now or later. The key for a business owner is, should I buy now? Should I buy later? Should I implement now or should I implement later? You have to be asking yourself that. You have to ask yourself, is this the right time to make the purchase? Why or why not? Should I or I shouldn't? Only you can determine that because you know where you're trying to go in your business. But purchases for a business should not be made spontaneous. I know often I'll make spontaneous purchases as a consumer. right? As a consumer. But as a business owner, I have to take a step back and look and see how is it going to add value to my business? Is it going to help me be more efficient? Right? Is it going to allow me to offer more products and service to my customer where the benefit affects my bottom line? Now or later, you have to be thinking about that. So when I say now or later, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about capital expenditures. Go to your next slide, Michelle. I'm thinking about internal events. I'm thinking about external events. And I'm thinking about leadership benefits. So capital expenditures. Do I buy something now and bring it to my business? Click Michelle. Thank you. Internal events. Am I having events internally? Does it make sense for me to do them right now? And this could be employee events. External events. Am I just going to a trade show because I should go? Is there real value there? Should I be spending that money? And then leadership benefits. Should I bring on a new leader or should I take the leaders I have right now, excuse me, and send them out to training to get the business acumen they need? Do I need to do that now or do I need to do it later? This could be anything. Should I introduce a new product now? Should I wait later? You have to evaluate that, and it cannot be done spontaneously. You really need to sit down and do a pros and cons for your business. Does it make sense to do it now? Write out the cost. What does it cost for me to employ a new piece of equipment? What does it cost for me to bring on a new product line? You got to weigh that out. Determine should I do it now or if I should do it later. If you don't determine that now, it's going to cost you in the long run. You got to spend time really identifying should I do it. And I bring that up because anxious execution or delayed implementation, it manifests as a lot of negative things. Go to the next slide, Michelle. It will manifest overspending, net profit losses, lost market share, and year over year negative return earnings. If you employ anything in your business too soon, that's the anxious execution. This is what happens. But if you employ into your business too late, that's the delayed implementation. So, I mean, you're cutting it on both sides of the coin. But if you're intentional, if you're proactive in your behavior, it produces a managed budget, net profit, retained earnings, and distributions and borrowing power if you do it right. So if I identify, and this is something as a business owner, if you're not spending 20% of the time on working on your business, you're going to miss this. If you're not spending 20% of your time and really looking at the business and trying to steer where you're going to go, you become anxious in your execution or you become delayed in implementation. So 20% of the time, if y'all take nothing from this call today, take from the call that 20% of your time has to be to work on the business, not in the business, but work on the business, strategizing, understanding what the changes are economically, understanding the changes in your industry. So you'll be able to pivot or you'll be able to mitigate the things that you can't control. If you're proactive, look at the proactive behaviors. It produces managed budget. That means I'm not overspending. It produces net profit. So instead of me having a profit loss, I'm going to have profits. Retain earnings. That means year over year, my business is scaling the right direction. And then I can take distributions. And when I have net profits right, it gives me borrowing power, meaning I don't take the high interest rates. I don't pay more for things than I have to because I have been proactive in my behaviors, which gives me the control, gives me the power to be able to determine how I borrow. That is key for a business owner. So that 20% of the time you got to be spending on your business, it prevents you from being anxious and delayed. You become more intentional. I'll stop there. Are there any questions for the now, right now in our blind spot?
Nothing's come through.
All right, let's go to the next slide. This is something for you guys to think about. I don't want you to do it right now, but I want you to think about it. And can if you're pretty quick on your feet. Write down any capital expenditure, internal or external events that you have scheduled. Place it in the category of now or later. And then I want you to ask yourself why, how, and what. Why am I doing it? How does it benefit my business? And what are my expected outcomes? If you have not already done that, you're almost at that anxious part where I'm anxiously executing something because I think it's right, right? If I can't answer why I'm doing it, how it's going to benefit my business, and what are my expected outcomes, I might have employed this anxiously too soon, right? And then you might have things that you'll say you're going to do later. Same thing. Why are you doing it later? How is the doing it later going to help your business? And what are your expected outcomes? This is real simple, and you can do it for anything you're doing in your business. I highly recommend you do it, because what you'll find out is sometimes your why might not make sense to you, and if it don't make sense to you, it probably not making sense for the business. Or your how's how I've always done it. It might even change you from how you do it, right? This is how I've been doing it, but you know what? Now that I write it down on the paper, because one of my favorite quotes is write it down, make it plain. Because when you write things down, it sounds good in your head, but when you write it down, you be like, oh, I'm missing some pieces, right? So write it down, think it through, and that how might change for you. And then the what part, that's the execution piece. What are my expected outcomes? In order for you to have some expected outcomes, you got to know how you're going to do it. It's how you do it to determine those outcomes. So I encourage you guys to do that under the now. That is the N for blind spot. Let's take a look at our D. Dismissed disciplines. Dismissed discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. Through self discipline comes freedom. True freedom is impossible without a mind made free by disciplines. Disciplines allow you to do things in order. The foundation of a strong self comes from a small act of daily disciplines. Self discipline begins with mastery of your thought. When you think about what it is you want to do and you can write it down, you can create disciplines in your mind. I know some of us have what we say rituals, but actually they're disciplines. When I get up in the morning, no matter when I get up, I'm going to make up my bed. That's the first thing I do every morning. I'm going to fluff my pillows, make up my bed, because in my mind, my day don't start until my bed is made. So once my bed is made, then I have my other rituals that I do. And I think everybody on the phone would say we have some. We don't think of them like that, but they are disciplines, right? I have a routine of what I do for the week. I know every Friday I'm going to get gas. This is my routine. That's what I do. That is a discipline. So we all have different disciplines. And for your business, you have to have disciplines also. Dismissed disciplines is a problem in a business. That is the D for blind spot. This is a blind spot, and this will cause total destruction in your business. So let's talk about necessary disciplines. Necessary disciplines treat every situation with a sense of urgency. Manage the business with matrix and goals. Remember, I said write it down, make it plain. The hows, the hows and the what's line up to that matrix and goals. Cultivate an environment of mental toughness and resilience. I'll tell you guys all right now, every one of you that's on this phone today, I am extremely proud of you, because entrepreneur probably be the second hardest job you ever have in life. I think the first hardest job is probably being married. People say, what about kids? Kids are yours, so they become easier. That husband and a wife, they are not yours. So they're yours by marriage. So that becomes, I think that's probably the hardest thing for me. Let me say hard. That was harder than having my daughter, right? So marriage became hard, but being an entrepreneur would probably be the second hardest thing you ever do. And the reason why is because your business is totally dependent on the things you do, the decisions you make, the things you implement into your business. And in order to mitigate some of the challenges you're just going to have as an entrepreneur, is you got to have some disciplines. You got to have some things that you do no matter what, right? So cultivate an environment of mental toughness and resilience. When I have a discipline, even if I'm sick, even if I'm sick, because I have this mental discipline, my day doesn't start until my bed is made. When I get up, I'm going to make that bed up no matter what, sick or not, I'm going to do it. And it's the same thing in your business. You got to have some mental toughness and resilience, but disciplines will help you with that, having those disciplines. And the repeatable and transferable behaviors. That's what disciplines are. They're repeatable and transferable, right? And creating a new discipline is not easy. You have to have mental toughness in order to implement it. You guys, I keep saying I go to the gym and I'll do it for a good 35 days and then I'll fall off for 2 weeks, right? That toughness, you got to have it. So it's got to be repeatable, and you got to be able to transfer that behavior to your everyday life. Well, for your business, it's the same thing. You got to have some consistent, transferable, repeatable behaviors, which will give you the mental toughness when things get tight. Because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have some tightness. You're going to have experiences, some trials, because like I say in life, if you're living in this world, you're gonna get rained on one day. And I say the same thing. If you're a business owner, you're gonna have some tough days. But by having those disciplines in place, it helps you get the mental toughness and the resilience that you need to continue to run that business. So let's look at dismissed disciplines. If you have dismissed discipline or discipleships, call them, that equals disruptors. Disruptors, what are disruptors? Flat revenue trends, revolving door, wasted time, missed goals, and missed opportunities. These are disruptors. When you see these things in your business, you automatically know you have some dismissed disciplines or you have dismissed discipleship. Flat revenues for the next 3 years, your revenues have been flat. That means some disciplines are not there. You're not being a good disciple of the things for your business. Your revolving doors, you got customers coming and going. You have no one that continues to utilize you constantly. Wasted time. When you look at time management, are you really utilizing your time to the capacity? Missed goals. You set all these great goals, and at the end of the year, you had 20 and you only achieved three. That's failure, right? And then missed opportunities. If you're missing your goals, you have to know you're not capitalizing on your opportunities. These are disruptors. Right. So if you see these in your business, this is part of that blind spot. And these are things, guys, not only my small businesses, but my businesses that I work with that are up to $50 million in revenues. I talk about this because there are indicators in their financials. There's indicators in their balance sheets that shows me that there's some dismissed disciplines. They're not being disciples of different areas of their business, which is creating this. Remember, blind spots. Blind spots do that. If you're driving a car and you hit a car, you still might be able to drive your car, but you're going to have dent or significant damage, right? That you have to fix. That's an additional cost. It is the same thing in your business. So if you have dismissed disciplines, you're not being a good disciple of the things in your business, you're going to get disruptors. Disruptors slow down progress if it doesn't bring it to a total halt. And we all know when things come to a total halt, your revenue stream stops. Right? Disruptors will mean your opportunities, that great opportunities you had, you cannot take advantage of because you got disruptors. Please pay attention to these things. Please. These are key indicators that there are some blind spots in the business and they need to be addressed. Before I go on, are there any questions on this piece? So this is the D in our blind spot.
No questions.
All right, let's talk about strategy deprivation. Success doesn't necessarily come from breakthrough innovation, but from flawless execution of the strategy. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna read that again. Success doesn't necessarily come from breakthroughs, but it comes from innovation, but from flawless execution of the strategy. We have beautiful strategies. I see all kind of amazing strategies, right? No execution of them, right? They have ways that they're going to implement, but there's no execution. So you can create a strategy, have a way to implement it, but if you don't execute to it, you won't get the outcomes you want. That's strategy deprivation. I have a great strategy, but nothing happens behind it. There are three levels of strategies. There's corporate level, business level, and progressive level. Corporate level is a high strategy, including the vision, the mission, and the key decisions, right? Business level, and if I could highlight, I'll highlight this because I believe this is one that most businesses struggle with, no matter what size you are. A business level strategy determines how a company competes in the market. It reviews its mix, a product mix, select customer segments, and complete marketing strategy. Exceptional client experience and eradication of competition is the main objective. This is where most people struggle. And I think they struggle in a couple of areas. Compete in the market. Oftentimes, we find businesses just like us as who we're competing with, which is not who you're competing with at all. Isn't that interesting? Because you think Southwest Airlines is competing with Delta, they're competing with American, they're competing with Frontier. But what if I told you that the airlines really compete with the bus company? They compete with the train company. Those are who their competition is. Three different modes of transportation, but that's who their competition is, right? So when you think about competition, you have to think differently. When you think about cable companies, you say, well, who are they competing with? They're competing with cell phone companies. Not other. See what I mean? So you have to open your mindset and really think, who am I really competing with? And then what is my product mix? Because that's another piece I just brought up. Cell phone companies, right? So cell phone companies are competing with my cable company. Yeah. Because right now, if you go to Xfinity, and then Xfinity offers a cell phone, they offer cable services, they offer all these different, so they have a very broad product mix, right? So when you think about competition, think differently. And then think about your product mix. Now you could be like, don't be like Cheesecake Factory. And I use them as an example, not in a bad way, but kind of. I like Cheesecake Factory, but when I go there, I have 5 things on the menu I order all the time. Why? Because the menu is exhausting to me. They have so much on there. I don't want to start looking and reading because I just can't figure out what I want. But when I look at it from a business model, I say to myself, this makes no sense. Why? Because say for instance, I mean they have 5 pages of offerings, and because they offer 5 pages of offerings, everything they offer, the ingredients that it takes to make that food, they have to have it present. Now think about it. If they have things on the menu that's only ordered maybe twice a week, they have to buy that stuff for every day to make sure they can make it in case someone orders it. That is automatically a cost. And it's what perishing items. So if nobody order for a week, they got to throw it out. That's a waste. What am I trying to say? Make sure whatever you're offering is things that your customers need and it don't become a waste for you. That's why here again, that 20% time working on your business is so important, because you might be offering businesses and services and products that people never buy from you. Why continue to offer it? Why not take the money or the part of the budget you have allocated to that and use it to take one of your top sellers and
It looks like LaVonda has frozen.
add something to it?
There we go.
Go to the
We
next
lost
slide.
you for a minute, Mikki.
Did you? Okay. Did you guys hear me? So why not take the budget that you have allocated to that and take it to the next, add it to something you already have that's one of your top sellers? That would be a better use of your funds and a better use of your budget. All right. So those are the three levels of three levels of strategy here. Progressive level is the practical strategy that focuses on the operation of the business. This is production, promotion, economic, and human resources. How long do you typically give your strategies before? What is someone asked a question, Michelle? Can you capture that?
How long do you typically give your own strategy before calling it a failure?
Oh, so I say it would depend on you. Oh, so it would take a couple of things on that. That is an excellent question. First of all, I would ask you, did you test the market to see if there was any buyers to begin with before you made a fledged offering? And if you did, you found that people were interested in it, great. So number two, I say for the next 90 to 120 days, evaluate how is it impacting is how's it impacting your bottom line? So is it costing you more to actually do it than you're making off of it? Because if it is, and you're not making enough off of, you have to do one or two things: pivot and say, okay, I'm gonna keep offering this, but maybe I need to add something to it to make it more attractive. Or three, say, you know what, this is not a good fit for me. What do I already have out there that can meet the customer's need, and maybe I can add to it to give them what they were getting from this product? So I would say you don't want to keep it a year. I say 90 days. You really start looking at it from a 90-day perspective. What has it done? What has it brought to the company? Is it an asset to the company? Is my revenues growing behind it? Has it captured me a greater market share? If I haven't captured a greater market share and that was my goal, maybe I shouldn't do it. So that goes back to what we talked about early: how, what, and why. Why am I employing it? How is it affecting my bottom line? And what is it bringing? What value is it bringing to the company and to the clients across the board? Great question. I would definitely evaluate those three things, look at it 90 days out, and make an assessment. And then ask myself, if it's not doing what I thought it was going to do, can I tweak it and capture more? If I can, I might give it another 90 days. If I tweak it and capture it, I'm going to be studying. If I give it another 90 days, every 30 days, I'm going to be reevaluating that. Because what you don't want to do is employ too much money and resources into this, and it don't bring you a great return. That's a great question. Love to be able to talk to you a little more about that. But let's keep going because we only have 15 minutes and I want to make sure we talk through this. Of course, I'll be available to talk to you guys afterwards. You can make an appointment with me. The next thing in our blind spot is the P for poor communication. And this might seem very, very basic to most of us on this phone, like we know that, but I think we miss it. One of my friends, James, he quotes, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. By being patient and attentive listeners, we can better understand the needs and the concerns of others and communicate with them more effectively. We often talk too much as leaders, as the owners, and we don't do enough listening. We don't listen to our constituents. We don't listen to our competition, and we don't listen to our customer. Remember, it's important that you're listening to all three, right? Because your competition is going to tell you something maybe you didn't know. Your constituents are going to tell you what you need to know, and your customers are going to tell you what they want. Go to the next slide. Poor communication indicators. How do I know I have bad communication? How do I know this is a blind spot? I'm glad you asked. Wasted time. You wasting your time, you're not doing anything with it, right? Wasted time. Confusion. The message that you're giving to your people is confusing. The message that you give to your clients is confusing. And if I ask you to tell me when you convey your story back to me, it's a little confusing to me too. Poor morale within your company. And I'll say this, people say, well, it's only me and my husband working there. Okay. What's the morale like between you and your husband? Right? It's still poor morale. If a wife see it one way, you see it another, that's poor morale. There needs to be better communication. And the constant mistakes. Mistakes are costly in the business. If you're a small business making less than $5 million a year, you cannot afford mistakes. Not too often. They are very costly. The smaller you are, the more impact they have on your business. And when we're not communicating good, we lose market share, because that means when whatever we offer to customers is not in excellence. If it's not in excellence, we all know this. A customer expects you to do it the way they expect it to be done, and they get to find excellence. But if we're not communicating well, we're not listening well, that lost market share, and which creates inefficiency in your business, and that damages your reputation. Remember, I talked about that earlier about your brand. What does your brand say about you? Reputation damage is hard to come back from, and it creates a loss of revenue. So these are key indicators. These are key indicators that you have poor communication, and you got to do a better job of it. So avoid poor communication. How do I avoid poor communication? Glad you asked. Be clear with your communication. If you're not, go to the next slide, Michelle. If you're not good at communicating, get you a business coach. Get a business coach and make sure you summarize things. Sometimes we say more too much. I think it's a quote someone says more is less. Sometimes when we say less, people get more from it. Don't tell, demonstrate, document in writing, have meetings, even if it's just you and one other person. At least you guys are on the same page, right? Have meetings. And this goes back to a discipline, or I say discipleship. If it's just me and a small team, it's probably more important that you meet with, if it's just you and one other person, than it's you and 10 people. I'm telling you, when it's just a team of two or three, it's so important that you guys are you're all dancing to the same beat of the same drum. And then ask why. Get an understanding. And all that getting, get an understanding. Seek to understand. That is the why. And make sure you're having one-on-one interactions. When you have clients and things like that, are you doing surveys? Are you asking people to give you real feedback? And then don't take the real feedback as personal. Take it as, oh my God, they're telling me what I need to do to become great. And then check in early and often with your people, with your team, with your clients. Check in early and often. Make sure things are going the way, because our perception is our reality. And just because you perceive as good does not mean your customer or your employees feel the same way. Check in early and often. That avoids poor communication. Next, we're going to talk about the O, which is outreach. I think this is a big miss for a lot of people, right? So in our blind spot, we're on the O. We make a living by what we give, but we make a life by what we give. Give. And I know you guys say, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have much to give. Yes, you do. So let's talk about outreach. First thing is networking. Go to the next slide, Michelle. I know we probably don't think about networking as part of a blind spot, but it's a big blind spot for most businesses. And I'm gonna challenge each one of you guys on here that whatever industry you're part of, you should be part of that networking group. Then I'm gonna push it a little farther. Don't, if I am an electrician, it's great for me to be part of an electrician networking group. But I need to be smart. Put electrician in the middle, just draw it in the middle of a circle. And then ask yourself, who uses the electrician? Realtors. Ah, I'm going to go to a realtor networking group. Who else uses electricians? A manufacturer. Ah, I'm going to go to, you don't just stick with the electricians because all you guys are trying to get the same piece of a pie. I want you to go get your own ingredients and make your own pie so you can have the whole pie. What does that mean? I have to think about who uses me and connect with those people. Networking helps build professional relationships. It introduces you to the next opportunity. It enables you to exchange ideals and best practices, not even just among the people to do what you do, but even think about how you can influence a manufacturer from an electrician perspective. Because remember, they got machines that's hooked up to electricity. They don't know how it works. But if you become the SME for them, you create opportunities for yourself. It allows you to give different perspectives to the same ideal, whole different approach, right? So networking is necessary. You need to network if you're going to continue to have a thriving business. So outreach, it involves, go to the next slide, people involvement. It creates brand recognition. It builds confidence and curiosity. Remember, that's why I said go to people outside of the electrician, go to a manufacturer, go to a home association. You'll be amazed if you start really networking, get outside your comfort doors, how you can create alliances with different organizations that creates opportunity for you. It displaces an intentional behavior to be impactful. By doing this, you're not doing what your competition is doing. You're doing something totally different. It puts you in front of different people. The next slide is very important to me. And I say that's because it talks about volunteer. And I'm going to share a story real quick with you guys. I got about 7 minutes, but I'm going to share this story because I want you guys to understand why networking and volunteer is pivotal if you want your business to scale itself and you want your business to go to the next level. I've been in banking for over 40 plus years, was a commercial banker. Spent time working with a lot of different people, but I pride myself in doing volunteer work. So I did a Habitat for Humanity event. I went, put on my jeans and my t-shirt, and went to go help build a house. All excited about it. Well, when you get there, they partner you up with different people. So I was partnered up with a man, and me and him began. Our whole goal was to build a frame to stud out for the sheetrock. Now he was the man, so naturally he said, "Well, I'll use the power tool." I was like, okay, so I'll hold the studs and I'll pull them up and you nail them, right? But he couldn't nail it. He couldn't have hit the nail into the wood if he had saved his life. It was horrible. Just because he was a male does not mean he knew how to use the power tools. He could not use the power tool. And he was making my work look horrible. Now I know how to use a power tool. Single mom, I've reframed my whole basement. I've done the whole thing. So I said, hey, how about this so that our work don't look bad and because you keep using all their nails and you're not even getting them in the stuff. Let me do that and you hold. So we spent the whole day doing that, talking, getting to know each other. He told me how he hired a cook for his wife because she couldn't cook a box of noodles. And he talked about how he brought the people and they taught her how to cook it. Oh my God, for the first 90 days, their meals were wonderful. But after the people left, she still went back to the old, she just could not cook. So we laughed and talked. We spent 8 hours doing this, right? And then in the building, he got to see my mindset, how I work, how I move, how I navigate. So at the end of eight hours, we were getting ready to go. He's like, by the way, I didn't know your name. And I didn't know his. And so we shared each other's name and number or whatever. Come to find out he was a CEO for a big corporation. He had a $2.7 million deal that he was in the middle of. But guess what? He called me. He wanted to run it by me and think about what were my thoughts on it. Well, naturally, I gave him my thoughts, but I actually ended up getting the business. And he said, well, Mikki, what does it have to do with this? That opportunity would have never presented itself had I not went to volunteer. Because here's what happens when you go volunteer, you're volunteering with people that you don't know. They're not in their business attire. They're not in their business mindset. They're there just like you are to do something else for someone else. So the barriers are for me getting to see who he was, how he operate was totally exposed, just like mine was. We weren't thinking about our business and what we do. We were thinking about building something together to help someone else. But because we were there and we were able to collaborate and just get to know one another as a person, it created an opportunity I probably would have never got. So if you don't have as part of your 20% of your time working on your business and you don't have volunteer in there, put it in there. You're having missed opportunities. You haven't missed opportunities to connect with people in areas that you would never imagine you get to do. A CEO, when he goes to volunteer, he's not saying he's a CEO. So volunteer create opportunities to connect with different people in different industries. When you volunteer, you never know who you will meet. You may meet your next opportunity. Let's go to the next slide, which is training, training and technology. And I put this in here because leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. That's from J.F. Kennedy. If you're going to be a leader, you should always be learning. Go to the next slide, Michelle. Ongoing learning can anticipate shifts and guide leadership proficiency through them. Profound decision making requires new skills and knowledge. You cannot lead your people to the promised land if you can't read the map, right? So you as an owner, as a business owner, as a leader, how much time are you spending sharpening your own skills? How much time are you spending making sure that technology you are aware of? You cannot walk around not understanding how AI is employing impacting businesses. You cannot do that, right? You got to know for yourself. You got to spend time in making sure you sharpen your own skills. That is the 20% of the time working on your business. Because you as a leader, as you gain the business acumen that you need, you can actually take that and you can filter that through your company. But you need to know, remember I said we lead from the center? What that means is I get the business acumen I need to be a great leader. Training, go to the next slide, Michelle. Training is necessary. Leadership can lead from behind. Industry unknowns diminish the value of strategy. If you don't know what's going on in your industry, it diminishes the values of your strategy. So training, go find out in your industry what training they have available for you to stay sharp on what's changing in your industry. Training enhances leadership's confidence in decision making. It becomes easier to make a decision when I've already studied it and I know what's coming, or I know what the expected outcomes are. And then training improves the level of assertiveness. People that you train and teach, they're not afraid to assert because I know what I know. But when I'm not sure, I won't be assertive. All right, Michelle, go to the next slide. AI, training technology, AI, how is AI being employed in your industry? You guys, this is big because I cannot think of business that AI is not affecting. So you want to make sure you know how it is. Is it affecting your business today or will it affect it tomorrow? And what new technology is your industry using? Are you aware of that? Michelle, go to the next slide. Individually, we are one drop, but together we are ocean. And I say that because strong affiliations is important. That's my next slide, Michelle. So strong affiliation, strong, the S is the last letter in blind spots. If you don't have strong affiliations, you're missing out. Because what strong affiliations will do for you, it creates, it analyzes, it remembers, it evaluates. It creates new opportunities. It analyzes yet can paralyze if you analyze too long. It reminds you to pivot and embrace change, and it evaluates strategies and purposes. So these are all blind spots that you have for your business. Go to the next slide, Michelle. Blind spots, make sure your mirror isn't cracked so you can see the true blind spots in your business. A cracked mirror, it will give you a picture, but it's distorted. Know what the blind spots are. The last slide, Michelle. This is Mikki. Um, this is me, Mikki Brown. I put my QR code up there. You can always reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you with your business, your strategy, or anything I can do to help you negate blind spots in your business. Thank you guys so much for your time. Michelle, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, Mikki. Wow, so much information. Matt said this has been a truly phenomenal course. Your delivery strategies and breakdowns were perfectly executed. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate you. And you have another number of accolades that you can scroll through. But I do want to encourage everyone to please visit our website, our SCORE Nashville website for additional offerings, and you can register. Nikki will be next. When is your next?
I think it's next month.
October. I think, did we have to change that because it was a Tuesday?
Change the date. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to get with Mikki. We had all sorts of workshops scheduled, but SCORE National has now decided that Tuesdays are going to be regional events. So we had to take our individual chapter and reschedule. So we will get with Mikki. Be sure to visit the website because I'll be posting it there, and you will be receiving emails so you'll know when that is. But thank you all for being here. Mikki, you're phenomenal as always. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. Everyone, have a great day,
Have a great
and
day.
we'll see you on Zoom.
All right. Bye bye, guys. Please reach out. Have a great day. Hey, Michelle, if you get a chance, can you just send me a list of people that were on there? I captured